We're going to go ahead and get started here. If we can please have those who are going to be giving tribute to Shaun, whether it's a few words or a toast, if they can just please come here to the side of the stage so we can just kind of move the program and people can flow in and out. That'd be great. We want to first of all just thank you so much for being here today. This is certainly a great day, just as Shaun would have envisioned it. My name is Robert Garcia, and I'm proud to have been one of Shaun's best friends and one of his brothers. And so it's great to be here on a great day in Long Beach. And to start off today, we want to just thank you for being here, not just on behalf, obviously, of his wife, Deziré, but on behalf of his parents, Ron and Debbie, who are here, and his whole family. We couldn't thank you more for remembering the great person he was. So to start us off today, please give a round of applause, because this is going to be a celebration today for our mayor, Alsop.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you all for being here. On behalf of the city of Long Beach, I want to extend our deepest sympathies to Deziré, to Shaun's parents, Ron and Debbie, to the entire Lumachi family, and to all of Shaun's friends. So we all know this is a tragic circumstance, and words just fail to convey the tragic sense of loss and the pain that we all feel at Shaun's passing. You'll hear many times today that Shaun was a special person, a talented, bright, sensitive leader who loved Long Beach. Those words will also fail to convey the accuracy of that description and the affection this community held for Shaun. He loved Long Beach. You would never know that he did not grow up here. He demonstrated his affection by his involvement in several Long Beach nonprofits. He was engaged, energetic, and creative in all his endeavors. There is a vacuum that will never be filled by his passing. I often speak about the need for civic engagement and the requirement that a democratic society needs to thrive. All too often, in our hectic society, engagement takes a back seat to other interests. But to have an intelligent, thoughtful, and capable person dedicated to the community is a blessing. Shaun was that blessing. He was emblematic of civic engagement. He was what a citizen ought to be. We loved working with him, not only because of the person he was, but because how creative he could be. He was always thinking of new ways to use social media with the Long Beach Post. His staff spent a day years ago as the day in the life of with the mayor in 2008. And his recent combining of Facebook and video so that people could chat with the mayor was a major success. And with each idea, there was excitement and above all, a great sense of humor. I served with Shaun as trustee of the CSU when he represented the students on the CSU. And he was a great representative, and you could tell his energy, you could tell his capability then. And it was a pleasure, it was an honor actually to serve during that period. And during the recent Person of the Year, it's all too poignant with Shaun's passing. The last time I saw Shaun was at the photo shoot for the print edition. And I accepted this recognition in his memory, and will redouble my efforts to make this city that we both love much better. You'll hear today about Shaun's impact, the impact he made during his life. He touched thousands of people in his career and in his volunteerism. He lived in his all too short life an extraordinary life. All of us should be grateful that we shared some part of it. We should all celebrate today. That's what this is about, celebrating an extraordinary life. We will miss him forever. But through the sadness, the pain, the deep sense of loss, we should all be thankful that we knew him, shared his passion, witnessed his creativity, and felt his energy. We should truly give thanks for that. So with that, please raise your glasses to Shaun and his work. Thank God we knew him.
Good morning. Los Angeles County Supervisor Knabe, longtime friend of Shaun. To Deziré and to the family, it's truly an honor to be with all of you here today to pay tribute to a young man who accomplished so much in a very, very short life. As we all know, and as Bob said, and as others will say, Shaun was truly a difference maker to all of us. He made a difference in the community, he made a difference in Long Beach, and he made a difference in each of our lives. Did an incredible amount in a very short period of time, in those 33 wonderful short years of his. As Abraham Lincoln once said, "It is not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years." No one demonstrated that more than Shaun. And in order to keep comments brief today, Shaun is responding with rain. He wants to partay. But through the Long Beach Post, his business, and as someone who represents over 2 million people in 26 cities, Shaun was involved in many of the cities in my district and had an incredible impact, and many of them are here today as well. But as been said, his involvement here in this great city has been an incredible amount of time in a very short period of time. I was introduced to Shaun through my son Matt many years ago when he came to Long Beach. Shaun ran my office and campaign websites, and billed me a lot of money too. He was very entrepreneurial, I will say that. But soon he was building those same websites throughout Southern California to many different chambers. And as we all know, Shaun could usually be found working his laptop at the nearest Starbucks. Thank you, Shaun. It rained. But his savvy, his business insight, and witty humor made him an absolute joy to spend some time with. And you're going to hear a lot about Shaun's attributes, and they were as they are being said today. But I can assure you there's one attribute he did not have, and that's the ability to play golf. My issue with Shaun has always been, it's great working with you, man, you're creative, like the state of the county, the night before I always do my sound checks and do all that. Shaun would take that seat right at the table, all 1,200 seats there, and do little things like give me the finger, chew on a lemon. So he had a very great sense of humor, but then when I tried to do something fun with him when I play golf, Matt and I think Carl Kemp shared the story in the Long Beach Post this week, and that's when, as I said, that's an area that, he didn't have a lot of talent. And so we're on the 9th hole at Recreation Park. He chips in from off the green, has no idea how he did it. He is so excited, he jumps in the air, comes back down, twists his ankle. We are on our way to emergency. Winds up on crutches for a number of weeks. And then the second piece, Shaun also introduced me to David Sommers, who became my director of communications, and a long-time friendship. And David and Shaun are very close on Sacramento State Days. You'll hear more about that. But David and Shaun try to take care of each other. But so Shaun plans this little dinner party for David's before he gets married. We're at the 555. And so Shaun failed to cut up David's meat in small pieces. So we're sitting there, David gets up, doesn't come back, and I said, somebody ought to check on David. So Shaun gets up, goes and checks, and sure enough, next thing you know, we got paramedics, we got David choking on the steak, he didn't even have a chew. We wind up in emergency in St. Mary. Another social occasion shot. But we all know he had an incredible passion, Shaun did, for civil discourse and the discussion of opposing views. And there were times that Shaun and I didn't agree, but I had nothing but love and respect for him and his passion for life. As we all know, Shaun, we've been entertained here today. Frank Sinatra once said, and I'm sure Shaun would agree, that I'd like to be remembered as a man who had a wonderful time living life, a man who had good family, a fine family, many good friends. I don't think I could ask for anything more than that. And as you can see by the turnout today, Shaun did just that. but his legacy will continue with all of us. My son Matt has a favorite quote, and that passionately reminds him of Shaun. It's from Steve Prefontaine. Many of you remember his running days. To give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. Shaun Lumachi was our gift. And while it was short in nature, it is a gift forever and ever, and one that we should all be thankful for in receiving that gift. So to Desiree, to the family, may God wrap his arms around you, give you peace, joy, and many, many wonderful memories. And with that, I'm just honored to be here. Thank you all very much.
My name is Mike Murray. I'm a friend of Shaun's. Two things I'm sure of today. Everyone here has a warm, funny, intelligent, goofy, unique to them story about Shaun. The other thing I'm sure of is that none of us will ever meet anyone remotely like Shaun. Some of you know Shaun was a baseball umpire. I asked him over and over to show me the choreography of his strike three call. He would never even give me a hint. I knew it was great, and I knew why he wouldn't share it with me. I wasn't ready to see it. I know a lot of you were Shaun's mentors. He collected mentors at the same rate he ate french fries 5 at a time. When you'd be having lunch with Shaun at Bacon Broil and he let you know you were his mentor, even after being in Long Beach only 2 weeks, you knew he was going to rock the place. Sure enough, he had concepts, ideas, innovations, and creativity to spare. Knowing him, I'm surprised his mentors didn't get a letter of thanks when he moved graciously on. Thank you for your service in assisting me to formulate my business and philanthropic objectives. Your input made a difference for me. I will continue to work to reach a point where I've earned Shaun's strike three call. On 2 boards that both of us sat on, Shaun recently wrote emails indicating he'd be willing to resign from the board of directors because he'd missed so many meetings because of everything he was involved in, but that he'd be willing to stay on if that was the pleasure of the board. These were both nonprofits he loved and admired. Who does that? Who is considerate enough, thinks of those he's involved with, and the organization enough to step down because he can't do everything at the same time? The fact is, the percentage he gave was so pure, so intense, and so informed, it was always, but always, the pleasure of any board to have him involved. We had a meeting during the 10-year plan to prevent and end homelessness presentation process, and sitting around the table were the likes of Ryan Alsop, Matt Knabe, Carl Kemp, Nick Eppolito. Nick is Los Angeles County Supervisor Don Knabe's Children and Social Services Deputy, and others of that layer of leadership we know is going to be setting the course. The one-time meeting was to get this group's view on how to present the homeless plan in a way that would garner the most support. I would suggest, Nick Eppolito made a point, and Shaun said, and I quote, "I fundamentally disagree." I don't remember what Nick's point was. It didn't matter after Shaun said, "I fundamentally disagree." All I could think about was this guy's Ray Lewis and William F. Buckley rolled into one. I waited for the right moment in the meeting a year or so later to tell Shaun I fundamentally disagree, and told him I'd been waiting to do so. Shaun was learning Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin, that George Gershwin, basically from scratch, both on the piano and the song. The plan? He was going to perform the number on his piano backed by the symphony, and the proceeds would go to Long Beach schools with the support of music programs. Who else? God, who else? I would suggest that when you hear Rhapsody in Blue, you're hearing Shaun practice. If you listen to Rhapsody in Blue, you'll hear Shaun. You'll hear his humor, his pace, his passion, his playfulness, his grandiosity, his power, and mostly, you'll hear him work. This is Shaun. Yep, you'll have it at 9:05. Late. Yo, got it right here. Yep, 9:15. Late. Jeremy, I need a quick synopsis on SB 702, 23, and 33, and hold on, AB 112 and 40 through 66. When you can get to it. 9:30. Late. Shaun here. Right, thanks. Chili cheese fries. Extra chili, extra cheese, extra fries. Size, abundant. Got a call late. Talk to me. Hold it. Foxy lady in the 7th. Late. Shaun left us something of himself with Rhapsody in Blue. He has left each of us much to do. It will take all of us working together to do what Shaun has set out for himself, and we probably can't do it. But you know as well as I that we don't have a choice but to memorialize him by doing everything we can to help fulfill his business plan. The mission statement might read, Shaun Lumachi lived to bring knowledge, to build a better society, to help those in need, and to treat others with more love than they had known. What we have going for us is a great, loving mentor. Let me conclude by talking about Shaun as a warrior, because he was nothing if not a warrior. I've told this to Des and some others. When I thought about the accident and trying to get a grip, I thought if God had talked to Shaun before God and said, someone needs to go on this, before God could have taken his next breath, Shaun would have said, I got this. That's the way he rolled.
Following Mike Murray again, as I did as chairman of the board of the chamber. My name's Jay Davis, and I originally was introduced to Shaun about 10 years ago when I was the chairman of the board of the chamber. And it didn't take long for any of us who were involved at the chamber to see that Shaun was very special, very bright, and very energetic. Over the years, Shaun and I had the opportunity to work on various committees and projects for the chamber, and we developed a friendship. Like everyone close to Shaun, his passing came as a horrific shock and left us saddened. And for me, speechless. At Shaun's memorial service in Northern California, friend after friend stepped up to the podium and declared that they were his best friends. How could one person have so many best friends? Many of them talked about their near daily contact with Shaun over the years, and all I could think that this was amazing. Since Shaun's passing, spending time with Shaun's friends and family, and reflecting on our friendship, that word about Shaun became the reoccurring theme. Shaun was truly amazing. Shaun was an amazing husband to Desiree, an amazing son, an amazing brother, an amazing business partner, and an amazing friend to me. Shaun had the amazing ability to maintain a variety of friendships, make each and every one of those friendships feel special. He had an impact on everyone he met. And Shaun's accomplishments accomplished this while building several successful businesses and serving as an amazing and tireless community advocate and leader. Shaun and I became closer friends when a number of years ago he asked me to help him with the Long Beach Post. I have a vivid memory of being with Shaun at the printer in the middle of the night before we delivered our first print edition. He was excited like a little kid on Christmas morning, grabbing the papers as they came off the press and jumping up and down with excitement. Me, I was covered in ink. Nobody told me that everythonat the printer, including the walls, had ink on it. It was an exciting, messy night for sure. I will miss Shaun's contagious enthusiasm and excitement with every new venture. I will miss our near daily discussions and meetings about the Long Beach Post. Our days on the golf course, and yes, Don, he was better than me. And the occasional angel game. And I will always deeply miss my amazing friend. Thank you.
Do the best we die young. Does God suspect that we learn to appreciate our lives more when we witness such loss? Does he want us to acknowledge the good people we meet, knowing that a meaningful acquaintance could be lost the next moment? Maybe we're just supposed to know sadness. If so, a lot of us have gotten a good dose of it the past 2 weeks. Nancy and I attended church last Sunday, and our pastor mentioned in a prayer about Shaun and the incredible tragedy the family and the community had suffered. Afterwards, we talked, and I asked him for scripture that might bring us comfort. And he suggested John 14, 1 through 4. Jesus, in providing some answers to his disciples, had this to say: "Don't let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God and trust also in me. There's more than enough room at my Father's house. If this were not so, would I have told you that I am going to prepare a place for you? When everything is ready, I will come and get you. So you will always be with me where I am, and you know the way to where I'm going." It was the early spring of 2002 when Dave Kilby, who's here today, the Senior Vice President of the California Chamber of Commerce, called me and suggested I interview a 23-year-old Sacramento State graduate who was a friend of his son's, Brian, who was a fraternity brother of Shaun's. Based on just respect for Dave, I scheduled an interview with Shaun in June of that year for our Vice President of Government Affairs position. Ryan Alsop, who had the same position a few years prior, assisted me in interviewing the finalists, and we knew immediately there was something very special about this young man. I can still remember this 23-year-old kid looking me in the face and saying, "If you hire me, I'll reach out and shake the hand of your 1,000 plus members and other community stakeholders in the region." Of course, what he meant to tell me was he wouldn't actually do it in person, he would do it electronically. Of course, this was almost 10 years ago, and the words social media were almost unheard of, but that was so Shaun, having the vision of seeing things down the road that we couldn't. However, Ryan and I never dreamed he would one day be an incredible community leader and make such a positive impact on so many lives in the region. Shaun worked for us for just 2.5 years, and he made an unbelievable difference in the advocacy area. Because of his efforts, our chamber won numerous awards at the state and national level, and our chamber became, in our opinion, the most aggressive advocacy chamber in the state. I can remember the day he came to me and he said, "Hey boss, let's start an advocacy-only website. I think we might be the first chamber in America to have one, and I'll build it, and the response will come." So I said, "Okay, build it." And boy, did he build it. And comments from all over the world came about LongBeachAdvocacy.biz. And to our knowledge, the site became the first chamber in the United States to have a separate advocacy-only website. He went on to build other sites for several other chambers. Shaun had this incredibly creative ability. He was always thinking outside the box, pushing me to try new things, and he continued to push me to raise the bar for our chamber. He was also an excellent writer, and I seldom had to edit his remarks, which was such value to me. My Strictly Business Commentaries was his idea, and his ability to write very controversial articles and select just the right photo was so important to our organization. Of all the employees I've had and I've hired in 30 years of my chamber career, Shaun Lumachi was absolutely the best hire. He added so much value to our organization that today people will know that something very important is missing. Shaun became one of my very best friends, and along the way he became a son to me. Sometimes I would kid him, and I said, "Shaun, if you're not careful and don't come through with this project on time, you might slip from my number 3 son to my number 4 son." But I never meant that. He loved me calling him my number 3 son, and I loved it too. We talked almost every day, and sometimes several times a day. He was the heart and soul of our advocacy program, and he will be almost impossible to replace. Kyle Sexton, who couldn't be here today, is a staff member of the Salem, Oregon Chamber. He wrote a wonderful story about Shaun recently on his blog. I just loved it, and I'd like to share parts of it with you today. He talks about the first time he ever met Shaun, when Shaun was getting the Staff Person of the Year award for the Western Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives. He quoted, "Here was this Italian kid with this perfectly round noggin, shaved bald, Lumachi. How do you pronounce that? How do you spell that? He was like the Tasmanian devil of the Chamber of Commerce industry. He didn't look like a chamber guy, he looked more like a mobster." And Kyle went on to say, "If you're unfamiliar with chambers of commerce, here's something you should know. Chambers are independent. There's no franchise. There's no affiliations, no licenses. There's no mothership. So when someone comes along and makes waves, it gets noticed. More than that, it gets copied. Shaun Lumachi knew he had something worth copying. So he stepped out on his own and he's copied successful strategies for other chambers." He went on to say, he said, "We both had an initiative about people. Shaun seemed to be more optimistic than mine. I learned from him that I should be more helpful. He gave people the benefit of the doubt, as if he had never been burned. He was on a different path. But I think the world should know how to spell and pronounce Lumachi. and they should know what it means. Let me give you some examples that might help you. If your friend's wrench won't budge the nut from the bolt, offer him some Lumachi. When lifting a house, something heavy like a house, put some Lumachi into it. If the sun is too bright in your spouse's eyes, offer him or her your Lumachis. If you know somebody's feeling down, open up your arms and give them a Lumachi. When searching for a project, think big. Write down 101 ways you can make it bigger, then you just Lumachi the shit out of that project. Kyle ended by saying he was not defined by his resume. Shaun was a loving husband and good friend. The last 2 weeks, there's been hundreds of postings in Long Beach Press, posts about Shaun. An outpouring of love and support is extraordinary for someone who's been in the city only 10 years. I would like to end with just 3 of my favorites. Chamber Board Member Adrienne Adams Lee posted, "Every life has a beginning and an ending date. Everything accomplished by a person can be found in that little dash between the dates. What matters most is how we spend our dash." Despite his young age, Shaun had a huge impact on those who knew him, and his passion really made a difference. His dash will live on. Councilmember Garrett DeLong posted, "Shaun has the wisdom of an 80-year-old and the energy, creativity, and enthusiasm of a 20-year-old. I always enjoyed our out-of-box discussions. You were one of the most creative people I've ever met, and a joy to be with. I will miss you." Bruce McCray posted, "Perhaps God needed you home for something big, my brother. No doubt heaven is rocking with you there." Personally, I think God has a new chief of staff. As I mentioned, the recent State of the City luncheon in front of 1,200 people, when Shaun's photo graced the big screens, there was a standing ovation. In 2012, one of my New Year's resolutions will be more like Shaun. And my future decision for the Chamber, I might say, what would Shaun do? Today, it's my pleasure to announce that the Chamber's annual golf classic, held in September, which has been around for 21 years, from now on will be called the Shaun Lumachi Memorial Golf Classic. A portion of the proceeds will benefit a scholarship in Shaun's name for a Long Beach City College student who is transferring to CSULB with a major in political science or public policy. People come into your lives for a reason. A season or a lifetime. When you figure out which one it is, you will know what to do for each person. When someone in your life comes for a reason, it's usually to meet a need you've expressed. They have come to assist you through a difficulty, to provide you with guidance and support, to aid you physically, emotionally, or spiritually. They may seem like a godsend, and they are. They are there for a reason, and you know you need them. Then without any wrongdoing on your part, or at an inconvenient time, the person will say or do something to bring the relationship to an end. Sometimes they die. Sometimes they walk away. Sometimes they act up and force you to take a stand. What you must realize is our need has been met. Our desire fulfilled. Their work is done. The prayer you sent up has been answered, and now it's time to move on. People come to your life for a season because it's your turn to share, grow, or learn. They bring you an experience of peace. They make you laugh. They teach you something you didn't know. They usually give you an unbelievable amount of joy. Believe that it's real, but only for a season. Lifetime relationships teach you lifetime lessons, things you must build on in order to have solid emotional foundation. Your job is to accept the lesson, love the person, and put what you've learned to use in other relations and areas of your life. Shaun Lumachi was a lifetime relationship for me. Although it was way too short, he taught me much, he brought me joy, he made me laugh, he was a godsend, and now he's gone, but my love and respect for him will never die. I loved Shaun, and no doubt he was the smartest and most creative young man I've ever known, and I'm going to miss him so much. I look forward to seeing him in heaven, and one day giving him a big Lumachi.
Good morning. I'm Ryan Alsop, and Shaun was one of my best friends. Shaun lived his life with swagger. T-minus, he would say, sending me texts and emails in the months and days leading up for you. Respect the town on the shore of the East on the shore of the Sea of Cortez, nearly a 2-hour drive north of Cabo San Lucas. It was our favorite thing to do together, with others or without. We wouldn't take much, backpacks only, he would say. These would be filled with some t-shirts, a couple of pairs of swim trunks, and a toothbrush. Shaun would bring his laptop. We would discuss logistics, reminding each other that we would be making an immediate stop at the small shop just down the 2-lane disused road from the airport to pick up provisions for the drive north. These were always 2 big bottles of ice-cold Pacifico each. Standard, really. Not more than a minute or so after pulling away, the first cap was bent back and off using the metal end of the seat belt in the ratty passenger van we were in, which was Shaun's discovery. The first drink was always preceded by a clink of the bottlenecks and a welcome back from Shaun, who I would then watch take his first sip as if he were severely dehydrated, and taking the last drink of the last cold beer on the planet, saving that very moment in time to be recalled in memory sometime later when he was back at the grind. I could never see his eyes because he had on his cool hand-looped sunglasses. "Who is that?" he would say with a curious half smile. I told him to rent it. I digress. It was important to have a strategy in place for getting the 2 best rooms if we did say so ourselves. Numbers 14 and 15, the big ones that sleep 4 or 5 people, with the teak patio furniture under the palapa next to the pool, and the sweet outdoor bar set in the immediate foreground of the translucent green Cortez. We would see the guy whose name we could never remember tending bar from the patio, and it was never long before he would wave us over. Siéntense, amigos. Shaun would insist that I be the one to convince our booking agent to reserve these hard-to-get rooms. "That's what you do best," he would tell me. Shaun had a way of conveying meaningful things to people in simple ways, almost effortlessly. I always made it happen, and I'd get a well done. The road to Los Barillas is long and barren, lined with only prickly Mexican desert brush and an occasional wild burro. It was always just good to get there, to pull up and see our special place, and know that we had several fun days ahead of us. The lobby is under a giant, magnificent palapa. It's a hand-thatched roof that provides shade and refuge from the hot sun, and in fact, this one is among the biggest in the Western Hemisphere, says Shaun, talking but not looking at me, sliding his iPhone back into his front pocket. Cool. The back of the hotel through the lobby opens up to the Sea of Cortez, and you immediately see the fleet of boats anchored just offshore with their wind-blown, multicolored displays of that day's catch of yellowfin dorado, marlin, and others. Shaun would look for our boats when walking in, the ones taken in years past, ranked from favorite to least favorite based on experience, on the experience we had. He would quickly tally the numbers of fish brought in that day. "I can't wait," he'd say with a determined expression on his face. Morning and dinner the next day could never come quick enough. Shaun puked any time he looked at a boat. He'd go anyway. He was not a complainer. He would see the best in everything, in every situation, just like he did in everybody. We'd be on the dock at 5:45 a.m. Tuna. He'd holler at the captain of Tenacious, our favorite boat, due to its size, comfort, and Bose speaker stereo system. They also spoke great English. Bait would be picked up just offshore, and then our 30-foot boat would throttle up and head out. Shaun would never talk on the way out. He always was too busy taking it all in. The warm morning air, the glassy iron sea, the spectacular sunrise. John Fogerty pumping out of the speakers, boat nose up and hammer down. Shaun usually sat in the chair, the plastic patio chair anchored to the center of the boat deck, flip-flops off, feet up on the rail, hands folded, and behind his head. I was with Shaun the day he caught the biggest fish of his life, an 800-pound, 13-foot rare black marlin. You might have seen the pictures. He showed them to everybody. It is among the largest black marlin ever caught by anyone fishing out of the Palmas. To give you an idea how big and rare this fish was, the world-renowned Bisbee Black and Blue Fishing Tournament that takes place in Cabo San Lucas each year was happening the same week we were there, and Shaun and I would have won that tournament with that fish. We reeled that fish in together with him throwing up in between turns. What many people don't know is the hardest part about landing that giant fish was just getting it gapped and tethered to the back of the boat so we could get it in. It took us over an hour. We pulled to the dock with a crowd of fishermen and other onlookers who had received early word of our fish somehow gathered around the beach, Hail to the Chief was playing. On the suggestion of the hotel manager, Shaun and I donated the fish to the town of Los Barriles, whose children would enjoy, I quote, whose children would enjoy the meat for lunches during the school day. We only learned days after that a black marlin that size sells for $20,000. Further highlighting our novice expertise, we sent the fish to an expensive taxidermist, and it now sits in a bar called B Riders in Southwest Bakersfield. We couldn't find a big enough wall closer to home. A once-in-a-lifetime fish caught with a once-in-a-lifetime friend. When hungry, we would eat ceviche and yellowfin sashimi with jalapenos on the top, Shaun's favorite. The captain of Tenacious would keep a bottle of soy sauce and tube of wasabi on board, the guacamole, and bowl after bowl of raw onions coming. He loved raw onions. Shaun would usually finish this meal by saying, "This was the greatest meal I've ever had." If you have known Shaun for any length of time, you know that he said this about many meals he's had, and maybe some with you. In August, I received an email from Shaun. He had sent me a picture of motorcycle goggles and a face mask. "You need these," the email simply said. The email would quickly be followed by another with a satellite photo of the riverbeds that stretch inland from the hotel. "Which are we riding up first?" the email said. Shaun absolutely loved riding ATVs out into the open, untouched terrain of the East Cape. He would go full throttle with reckless abandon for miles and miles up into these massive riverbeds. On one particular trip with others, we'd all stop to rest, not Shaun. The group sat and watched with curiosity as Shaun rode quickly up and back down the length of the only stretch of river water we'd come across that day. Half a football field long, several feet wide, and at least 8 to 10 inches deep. We just all sat and watched him. It looked like he was trying to kill the machine he was riding by exhausting it and then drowning it. With the enthusiasm of my 8-year-old daughter on Christmas morning, saturated and the motor sizzling and steaming from the combination of heat and water, Shaun pulls up and stops in the center of the group. He says, "Unbelievable. One of the best things I've ever done." Shaun had a style that made us all stop and think, maybe we ought to try that. I remember asking him much later why he liked riding the ATV so much. I mean, it was fun, don't get me wrong, but to Shaun, it seemed to be religion. He simply told me, "I've never felt freer." On a solo trip last year, Shaun and I spent an evening on the patio of the hotel discussing how great it would be to bring a big group of people down on the next trip. This was important to Shaun. We set out to do it and took 7 others down for the first time in September of this year. Dave, I'm glad that you also went on that trip. Shaun took great pleasure in showing his friends a good time, and he wanted all of them to experience what he loved most about this trip and the place. I've not had a friend in my life who has meant more to me or has added more value than Shaun Lumachi. I loved him. He was an unpretentious soul who lived life with a swagger. Curious, optimistic, patient, and kind. He was truly one of a kind. He lived a short life of immense happiness, amazing friendships, and tremendous fulfillment. He was beautiful. Before I sit down, and because we're live streaming on the Long Beach Post, I would like to end quickly with a tribute to my friend Shaun. He loved the most interesting man in the world, commercials. And we would spend sometimes on email coming up with new quotes for the most interesting man in the world. So, to pay tribute to our friend Shaun, I'd like to read you some quotes on Shaun Lumachi, the most interesting man in the world. I wish I had music playing. In elementary school, when asked what he wanted to be, he simply said, "Myself." His mother has a tattoo that says, "Son." He had a tattoo that said, "Me." He would wake up early to greet the sun because it was just the respectful thing to do. Recently, he was in talks with Apple on their next generation device, the Lumachi 1. His shaved head was one of 3 objects visible from Long Beach in space. His mirrored sunglasses were to allow you to see yourself looking at him. Saloon was originally called Tantan Lumachi, but was changed out of respect to him. He gave the Molina family their flu shots. He could say that LB Report was a community asset with a straight face. Jack Mapes paid him to train at his gym. He's the only man Mayor Foster let call him Robert. And finally, he jumped for joy and got it.
My name is David Sommers. As the supervisor mentioned, I have a tendency to choke up at these things. I think I'm going to get electrocuted today first. I'm also known as Shaun's best friend, number 213. 14 days after this happened, I still haven't been able to get past a question that many of us are struggling with. Why did this happen? And why has Shaun's death struck each of us with such profound dismay and grief? Certainly the circumstances of his death don't furnish the answers or provide any comfort to the question of why this happened to this man. Shaun wasn't a martyr who died for some great cause. He didn't lay down his life for his country. He wasn't a soldier, a statesman, or a captain of industry. He was Shaun. He was straightforward and simple. He was dedicated to Deziré, his wife, his family, and his community. He was Shaun. And this massive tribute of admiration and affection for his life and his values could not be more universal or sincere. Thank you all for being here. Many people have appropriately paid tribute to Shaun today as a community leader, which is an honor he deserves due to his political skills and devotion to service. We've heard about the endless interest of his mind, how he never stopped learning, never stopped asking us questions, trying to swiftly sum us up and get to the heart of our character. We all know the power of Shaun's persuasion, the efficiency of his resolve and decision-making, and the courage of his conviction in the things that he believed in. I imagine we're all thinking how sad it is that a man of such talent, such capability and kindness, of such intelligence, and could be taken away from us so suddenly at the age of 33, before he had achieved many of the things he had planned for the other 2/3 of his life, and before he'd had enough fun. Had enough opportunities to laugh with all of us until we were all in tears, or enough chances to share one of his shocking, irreverent, unfiltered personal stories. Here's an example of what Shaun would want me to tell you right now. After having spent so many nights sleeping in the same hotel rooms and cruise ship cabins with him over the 13 years of our friendships, suffering through his incessant, droning, ape-like snoring, I have to admit to you, my first thought after he died was, my God, I'll finally get some decent sleep when I travel. And the reason I think I should tell you this is because Shaun would never forgive me if someone today didn't take one last opportunity to say something shocking to everyone on his behalf. Because at times for him it was anything but good taste. You see, the trouble is I can't do it as well as Shaun would. Shaun and I were not just accountability partners in each other's professional and personal missions and lives, but he was also my demented muse. He was the person who would say, let's grab a quick dinner, then wrote me into a midweek $600, 4-hour, 10-course food orgy at Spago. Hanging out on a weekend afternoon would turn into a spontaneous decision to drive into Mexico, go ATVing in Ensenada, grab dinner on the beach in Rosarito, and pray to God we could get back over the border before either of our wives found out. If he were here with me right now, I would probably have the courage to be as brazen and as risky in my remarks as he would want me to be, because he always emboldened me. But the truth is, I lack his splendid boldness. And so I'll have to simply be satisfied with telling you this instead. When you got him out of the public spotlight, his interior monologue simply evaporated, and tact would often go out the window. That's what I'll always remember about him. He was the prince of bad taste at times and poor form at others. He got seasick and literally vomited all over himself the first time he met my wife when I took him out sailing at sea. Then he had the audacity to immediately ask for half her sandwich because he was hungry. He would overshare at times about all-you-can-eat lobsters and eating Big Red gum. I could go further with those stories. Shaun would want me to, but I live in this town. I have to see all of you again. I hope to be employed by others of you in the future. So if you want more than the PG version of these stories, join me for a kettle rocks, 4 ice cubes only, and a cigar in the main lounge after this, and I'll tell you the unfiltered versions of Shaun's stories in the place and a way that Shaun would have loved. He was charmingly inappropriate, and his delight in shocking people led him on to greater and greater feats. He was my pioneering beacon over the past 13 years. My love for Shaun is not an easy feeling for me to put into words. Neither is my loyalty to him, or the trust and joy that he brought to our friendship. He was all of these things to me. He taught me to love life completely, just as he did, and to live life intensely, just as he did. Life with Shaun was more than the 3 or 4 phone calls a day. It was an endless conversation. It was constant growth and renewal and recommitment to each other, that even though we were on different trajectories, our convictions and our ideals were one and the same. I don't know the answer as to why this tragedy happened, and I wouldn't dare the irreverence of guessing as to why. But I find myself going through this incredible loss and painful bewilderment knowing this. The secret to Shaun's appeal was that he was made up of the best part of each of us. He had all the attributes of a life extraordinarily well lived. He inspired people to high ideals. He was unquestionably loyal to each of you. He was passionate about this community. He loved his wife with reckless abandon. And I'm not entirely sure how to live life without Shaun as part of it. For me, it's an uncertain future that lies beyond my vision, but it is not beyond my control. We can be decent. We can volunteer to solve problems. We can work to improve our community and the lives that surround us. We can be brave, and we can take extraordinary risks. This isn't a death that we are mourning today. This is a life that we are celebrating, a life whose aspects are worth emulating every day. Shaun's way of living is the way we should each live. Thank you.
I like that sun. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to see so many of Shaun's friends here. My name is Robert Garcia, and I'm also one of Shaun's best friends. And the one thing that's just incredible about today is that we're gathered here to celebrate what Shaun wanted. Shaun, not surprisingly, often talked to us about what he saw post life, and he always wanted a party. And so we're here celebrating celebrating not just him, but also having a party for Shaun. I want to start off by just thanking all of you, obviously on behalf of Deziré and the family, for being so supportive of Deziré, of being so supportive of his family, and to me personally and to all of Shaun's friends. Shaun was like a brother to me, someone that I believe has changed my life and made my life better. We're so close, and we were so close, in fact, that we often spoke multiple times a day. In fact, for the last 6 or 7 years, we probably spoke 2, 3, 4 times every single day by telephone. And a lot of people have a hard time kind of imagining that, but we called it our running conversation. Sometimes it'd be a quick phone call, it'd be as simple as, hey, what's up, man? Hey, what's up? Late, and that was it. Other times we'd have long philosophical discussions about politics, about business, about education, about the things that he loved so much. But just being able to talk to him every day was something that I will always treasure for the rest of my life. In fact, I'll reveal here today for the very first time, and I only think a handful know this, that when we would have these conversations, they would oftentimes happen with British accents. We had this fondness for British accents, and so most of our conversations by phone always started in British accents. Why we spoke in British accents, I don't know. I wish I knew, but it was something that we both did every day. And I think, why do we do this? Why did we had these odd things we would think about. We talked in British accents. We had this fascination with growing old together and being in the deep south, drinking mint juleps for some reason. And we talk about these really strange things. And I think I kind of narrowed it down to the fact that we were just weird together. Two nerds trying to be cool. Shaun, like many of the guys up here, I met Shaun 12 years ago. And I met Shaun for the first time when he was president of the California State Student Association. And I think Mayor Foster alluded to earlier that the mayor was a board member of trustees for the Cal State system. And Shaun actually was the president of the State Student Association. Why that's important is because that position represents all the 400,000 students of the Cal State system. It is actually the largest state student association in the world, and Shaun was president of that. So when I was student body president at Cal State Long Beach, and Shaun was involved in student government at Sac State, he became president of this association, and we just got to know each other. And he really opened my eyes to politics, to the way the state works, to education, and the things that he loved so much. A lot of us know Shaun for his commitment to business, or his love for media, his love of our great city of Long Beach, but I want to make sure we don't ever forget that Shaun's first love was education. Shaun's first love was education and ensuring that people had access to that education. And whether it was his hard work as president of the Cal State Student Association, whether it was the fact that he was vice president of the Long Beach Education Foundation, whether it was the fact that he was the chairman of Principal for a Day with Ryan Alsop, I believe for 3 or 4 years, that he worked on all the bond campaigns for the school district for Long Beach City College, that he was chair of the Small Business Development Center for Long Beach City College, that he was so involved and invested in Cal State Long Beach and Sac State. Shaun loved education, and I don't want anyone to ever forget that. That was his true love. I remember one day when Shaun, I'd met him 12 years ago, we were student leaders, and he calls me out of the blue. I was here in Long Beach, going to Cal State Long Beach, about to graduate. He was graduating Sac State. And he calls me and he says, guess what, I'm interviewing for a job in Long Beach. And I said, with who? He says, well, his name's Randy Gordon. I said, oh boy. Randy Gordon. So what you don't know is that I went to high school with Randy Gordon's kids. And actually, I think they're here today. Back in Covina High. Randy was actually the president of the chamber in Covina, where the town that I grew up in. So I knew Randy before I even got to Long Beach. And I said, well, good luck with that. Let me know how it goes. And Shaun got the job, and he did a really, really great job with that. And then, Shaun and I just became instant buddies when he came up here. And Shaun also at the time used to, when he first launched his business, he operated his business out of a building actually owned by Frank Colonna and the Colonna family. And Frank, I know, is here. His family's here. The boys are here. Laurel and everybody else. And Bob, you should maybe cover your ears, Mr. Mayor. But Shaun, I really got to know Shaun when Shaun and I became involved at Frank's request to be involved in his mayoral campaign, doing all of the web stuff. And so we worked very hard to defeat Mr. Mayor. Shaun worked very hard, but we did it as an incredible opportunity to learn about politics. We didn't know about anything about Long Beach politics, what it was about, who was involved. But Shaun had a passion. He said, we're going to make this web thing really go great for Frank. And I think Shaun did a phenomenal job. And I noticed his talents. And we both left that and just started working and back to graduate school. Shaun launched his business. And one day, I remember I went up to Shaun and I said, I got this really, really crazy idea. I said, what if you and I started an online newspaper? And Shaun said, give me a minute. He wrote it out. The next day, he had a master plan for what is now today the Long Beach Post. Wow. And I have to be honest, the Long Beach Post is Shaun. It is Shaun's vision for what media should be and should look like for a city. And I'm so proud that he has created, with all of us to support him, something that has been so instrumental to our city. And I want to say this. Shaun would say often about the Post that what was created there out of his love is larger than anybody that's here. It's bigger than ourselves. It's something that, for the last 5 years, has chronicled all these things that have happened in our great city that will live on for hundreds and hundreds of years on the World Wide Web. This has been part of Shaun's legacy of his creation. He has written the history and recorded the history of Long Beach for the last 5 years for the Long Beach Post. And that is something we should all be very proud of. I know I am. When we were doing the Long Beach Post, I remember I had told Shaun and I began to love politics, and I said, I think I might run for the city council. And I would not have run that race if it wasn't for Shaun. That was the Shaun Lumachi campaign. It was the Shaun Lumachi brand. It was the Shaun Lumachi logo. It was the Shaun Lumachi website. It was the Shaun Lumachi. You got to be pro-business, but you got to be progressive on social issues. You got to work with everyone. You got to bring people together. That was Shaun Lumachi. I received an email the day after Shaun passed away from the leader of the Federation of Labor of Los Angeles, the county fed. I say that, I haven't told this story to Randy. Only Shaun Lumachi could get Randy Gordon to shed a tear and have the head of the Federation tell me a story about how they had met Shaun many, many years ago, and Shaun had let them borrow his furniture when they were in college, and that they still own Shaun's old sofa from college. That was Shaun Lumachi. I had the great privilege of being able to spend this last Thanksgiving with Shaun. Actually, Deziré, myself, Matt, and I went and spent Thanksgiving in Las Vegas. Very Shaun. We decided we'd do something different this year, and so we went to a restaurant called Cut, which is Wolfgang Puck's new steakhouse in Vegas. According to Shaun, it's the top steakhouse in Vegas. It's the second best steakhouse in the country. Of course, we all had other ideas of where we wanted to go, but we ended up where Shaun wanted to go, of course. And Shaun, of course, ordered a $200 steak, having flown in from Australia that morning. And I remember at the end of that meal, that was just a week before his passing, he looked at Desiree, myself, Matt, and I just enjoying our meals and said, that was the best damn steak I've ever had. And he had that great steak that he loved, and I'm so happy to have been there to share that moment with him. I'm going to just close with saying this. On the back of your memorial card, there's a quote. And I think it's not just my favorite quote of Shaun's, but I think it's the thing he said the most, and that was, "What's next?" And I want to share with you what he meant by what's next. And those of you that know Shaun know that he said this very often. When you would accomplish something, or you complete some big task, and you'd say, "Hey, Shaun, guess what? I just finished this task," or, "Hey, Shaun, this group has honored me for this." Shaun would look at you and say, "What's next?" instead of congratulating you, he would always say, "What's next?" And it was his way of a call to action, of making you think not just about the moment, but about tomorrow. If you were to say to Shaun, Shaun, I just got engaged, he'd say, "What's next?" If you were to say, "Shaun, I just got a promotion at work," he would look at you and tell you, "What's next?" And it was really his way of making you think that you can't just sit and be sedentary and be content with what you have. You've got to think about the future. So I want to ask us today, what's next? What's next for our families? What's next for our loved ones? What's next for our schools in Long Beach that Shaun loves so much? What's next for his beloved Sac State? What's next for the business community here in Long Beach? What's next for media? What's next for the Long Beach Post? And what's next for the city that Shaun believed was the greatest city in America, Long Beach? Shaun challenged us to do better, and we will. We love Shaun. He'll live in our hearts forever. We will never forget him. What's next? Thank you.
Most of you know I'm Deziré, Shaun's wife. I want to thank everybody for all they've done for Shaun and I. It's been a tough 2 weeks. And I can't say thank you enough for the way, as Shaun would say, for stepping up to the plate to help me. I also want to thank Seller Stell IV. Where are you? I had the best 8 years of my life because of you. You introduced us to... That first weekend I moved to Southern California to start over, not have a boyfriend, get a new job. And no, I'm not going to buy you a car still. I thought I'd end today's speeches with an email Shaun sent to one of his friends in July of 2009. The only thing that is important is to do something. What you have is a start and will help you as a leader. Quite frankly, in 2001, my approach was very similar to yours. However, in 2003, I refined it to just have a purpose statement and to develop vision statements as often as I like on different timelines, and the vision statements are either proactive or reactive, or both. I had found that developing 5 visions for personal and 5 for professional was way too constricting for me. I needed flexibility in my implementation. In other words, as the old saying goes, no plan survives contact with the enemy, and my enemy was the trials of life, etc. So, to adapt quickly, I adopted the following concept for myself. Everything I do, both personally and professionally, must first align with my purpose statement or does not get any of my attention, vision, goals, etc., with a few exceptions. So publicly, I only have a purpose statement. My purpose statement. Shaun's purpose is to be a dedicated leader who serves his community through advocacy and the development of relationships. His philosophy is simple: to know his purpose, build and maintain relationships, be authentic, set goals, and have clear visions, be result-driven, and be disciplined. And I have the balls to make this public. A big deal. It means others can hold me accountable. More on that later. See under personal on chamberadvocacy.biz/Shaun Lumachi. Example of my purpose driving a personal vision. My vision around Christmas of 2008 was to strengthen Des and my long-term relationship by the end of 2009. Number 1, marriage. Number 2, move to the beach. And number 3, secure her mother living with us so Des can be close to her. All things Des and I wanted that would inch us closer to a strengthened personal life. All things could not have been done unless it aligned with my purpose. In this case, the development of relationships part of my purpose drove the success of accomplishing this vision. Temecula Chamber wine tasting, Des's cousin putting us in touch with her friend at the Ritz, and saving money each month with her mom living with us, etc., etc. Vision came to life in whole as of 3 weeks ago, 6 months ahead of schedule. Example of my purpose driving a professional vision. In May of 2004, sitting at Andy's college graduation, I developed a 2-part vision. 1, to work from anywhere in the world at any time. Accomplished, September 1st, 2004. And number 2, to sit around a table with a team of people sharing ideas and building businesses. Accomplished last Monday. Both of these examples are 2 of anywhere from 10 to 20 visions in my head at any given time. Again, some reactive and some proactive, and all align with my purpose. Hope this helps give you an idea of another way. Final thought. Talent without discipline and accountability is like an octopus on roller skates at an ice rink. There's plenty of movement, but you never know if it's going to be forwards, backwards, sideways, and it helps to have someone, once in a while, tell you roller skates don't work on ice.
Thank you, Des. We love you. Again, thank you all for coming. We're gonna, the party will continue. First song that's gonna play here for us is gonna be Rhapsody in Blue that you all know Shaun was learning on the piano. So grab a beverage, enjoy the song. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to the family, Lumachi family who's here. God bless you all. God bless Shaun Lumachi. Thank you.